were talking about the issues that we need to rule out before we start treating the injuries or preventing the injuries. Okay? So before we do that, we need to think and look out of these things in all people, all sports people. So Ampus is one of it, right? So anybody complaining of flank pains on the training or after training or during training, he can be cured immediately. You take 2 puffs of Ventolin or the aerosol spray, 15 minutes of Lumine, and then you can actually play perfectly normal. Another important issue is hemoglobin. Thalassemia is quite common in Brunei, and a lot of people, children born to thalassemic parents, either one of them, mother or father, should check the blood, right? And that is, again, people complain of tiring out, or the children complaining of tiring out very soon in training, because the quality of red blood in the body is not good, and that means the oxygen carrying capacity of this red blood is not good. And endurance or stamina is directly related to the quality of your blood and its capacity to bring oxygen around your body during exercise. If that doesn't happen efficiently because the quality of blood is not good, or somebody is having some problem or genetic diseases, then that person will not be able to train well. So screening people for thalassemia or any other hemoglobin disorders. Women are vulnerable because of their monthly cycle. They lose blood, so they have low hemoglobin naturally. And those athletes who are running day out, day in, actually when they strike the ground, some of the red blood cell is broken down. So running athletes usually have low hemoglobin. And after 3 years of training, they are doing very well. Suddenly their performance will start to go down. They cannot improve further because the hemoglobin is low. Mind you, hemoglobin is your red blood cell. Okay, and that carries your oxygen everywhere. Because of you kill your red blood cell every day running on the hard surfaces, sometimes it goes down. Most of the athletes, elite level, they have to take iron and folic acid maybe throughout their life until their sports career. If they don't, then the hemoglobin fluctuation can make a difference. And I tell you the best example of Kifli and Jimmy, the two brothers from Daburo, who are the champion runner in Brunei for marathon. We have been monitoring them, and every time Jimmy would have a low level, his performance was just not be there. And that's where the problem starts. When the coach sees the athlete is not improving, without realizing the compass, the thalassemia, the hemoglobin problem, he tries to push more. Just, okay, 2 more rounds, thinking that maybe my training can help him to improve. It's not going to. And the athlete also thinks the same. And when they push themselves harder, they break down. Your body has a capacity to cope up with the stress. But when you overstress yourself without realizing the threshold you're crossing, your body breaks down. And that's where the injuries and overuse injuries come into play. So, as a sports physician, my job is not to treat the injuries. My job is mostly to find out where the injury is coming from. I always ask children and athletes, what is your training plan? Then they say, oh, I do 8 rounds, so many things per day, run the steps, do the plyometric. And when did you start it? Oh, last week only. That training is maybe for people who are training for last 6 months or 1 year. But because the championship is coming or some games are coming, the coach wants them to do everybody the same thing. So to prepare them for the games. And the body cannot adjust. Warm-ups and things, other things we will now talk about. Okay, prevention of physical conditioning program. Pre-season physical conditioning program. Let's talk about that. Now what is important and need to be focused is heart and lung. We talked about the capacity when I told you last lecture about aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic is your endurance, it's your capacity of your lungs, blood and heart to take the oxygen from the lung and heart to pump enough blood to the muscle in time to burn fat. So the efficiency of getting the oxygen from the lungs to the muscle through heart is called endurance or your stamina, and you need to train that. If you don't have effective system, I just had a patient, that's why I got late. He was in England studying there. For last 6 months he didn't do any physical workout. Yesterday he went to a gym, did an elliptical trainer, did 10 minutes of walking, and then he did some cycling also, and he just stopped. And after that he had panat in both hand, in leg, and then almost fainted. This is because of deconditioning effect. And he thought that he is getting a stroke or he is having a jantung or what. Actually no, it's just deconditioning. The heart is not trained to pump enough blood to the brain to sustain that exercise effect. And each exercise and conditioning is required. So you need to look into training your heart, training your lungs, and flexibility. As I told you, if you don't use your joints, then they get stiffer and stiffer. Just like if anybody of you has a fracture, and if your elbow or your ankle was put in the plaster, even now, if you have not trained it, you will see the bending is different. If your wrist is broken, you do like this will be like this, the broken one. It won't be like 90 degrees. It's just because the plaster causes the stiffness of the joint, not the one which is broken. Unfortunately, it's the plaster which causes more problem. So flexibility is important. Strength, sports specific exercises and so forth. I give this example of running Vista or XP on Pentium 2. You cannot run Vista on Pentium 2 hardware. It will hang up on it. You have to have a hardware of Pentium 4 to run this software. Similarly, your skill will never go away. They always stay there, but your body does deteriorate. So pre-conditioning, pre-season conditioning means build up your hardware to P4 and then run your Vista. If you run Vista on your Pentium 2 body, it will break down. It will hang up on you and get injured. And that's very important. Again, during the end of the season, everybody is breaking down and most people get injured. Always keep a history of your athletes and of your people. If they were injured in the last season, and ask them, did you fix yourself? And most of the time they say, no, I just rested. Then you have to check all the joints which were injured, and if they still have some remnant problems in those. Do they have correct balancing on the ankle? Do they have correct flexibility? And the best thing is, you don't need a doctor or physiotherapist for that. Compare both sides. As I said, if I want to test the wrist, I will do this. If this is not flexible, it will be like here. And I could see that. Similarly, ankle, similarly, hips, joints, all joints movements can be initiated and compared with the good side. And if you find any unfixed problem, then you have to do that before the season begins. So testing people before season is very important. And that's where the real role of the athlete trainer, people like you, comes into play. And that's why the importance of monitoring. And monitoring is something which we don't practice effectively. People, I always ask athletes coming to training, why are you here? And they say training. I say training for what? What do you do today? And they don't know. Oh, well, I'll run 6 rounds, I'll do this, and that's it. No, they should have a specific goal for that day. I'm going to do 1 centimeter more in my long jump. And that's my aim for today's training. I will spend 3 minutes extra on stretching my back. That's the specific goal for today only. And then I should know as a coach or as a trainer, did you achieve your goal for today? Did you do your mark objectives today? Which we don't have. Nobody practice. And because there is no monitoring going on, we have to have that in practice. We have to have an athlete's diary in place. We have